You are not tired because life is too heavy. You are tired because the moment you open your eyes, you hand your soul over to the world. Do not rush to deny it. Be honest for once. How many mornings have you opened your eyes and reached for your phone before you even felt your first breath? One message left unread. One bill waiting to be paid. One cold email from work. One person on social media showing off a life that makes you feel like yours is falling behind. And just like that, your day does not begin with life. It begins with comparison. It begins with fear. It begins with the silent feeling that you are already losing. I speak to you now with the severity of a Stoic who has watched human beings suffer across every age. Stoicism. Do not open your eyes like a slave. You did not click on this by accident. This is not a video designed to comfort your weakness with soft words and empty motivation. This is a message sent directly to you, to the one who wakes up with a living body, but a chained mind, to the one who is haunted by money, regret, rejection, pressure, loneliness, and the invisible expectations of a world that never stops demanding more. So let me ask you something. When you wake up in the morning, who owns your mind first? Is it you, or is it your phone? Is it your reason, or is it yesterday's anxiety? Is it your character, or is it the opinion of someone who does not even understand the battles you have survived? The early Stoics looked at the order of the universe and called it logos. They believed that beneath the chaos of life, there was a deeper reason, a hidden order, a law greater than human panic. The Middle Stoics brought that wisdom into society, duty, discipline, and public life. And the later Stoics, men like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, turned it into a way of surviving pain, betrayal, illness, power, loss, and death without surrendering the soul. But you are not standing in ancient Rome. You are standing in a different arena. There are no swords raised against you, but there are notifications. There are debts. There are deadlines. There is comparison. There is overthinking. There are sleepless nights where you stare at the ceiling and wonder why you are trying so hard, yet still feel so trapped. Maybe this morning, you woke up in silence. The sky outside was still grey. The city had not fully come alive yet, but inside your chest, there was already a crowd screaming. One part of you worried about money. One part of you worried about work. One part of you remembered someone who left. One part of you felt ashamed of everything you still have not become. One part of you was so tired that you did not want success anymore. You only wanted peace. You were awake, but your soul had not risen. Then you picked up your phone. The screen lit up like a false king. It called your attention with a cold blue glow. It told you that you needed to know who texted you, who ignored you, who is richer than you, who is happier than you, who is more beautiful than you, who seems to be living the life you secretly fear you will never have. And within the first few minutes of your day, the world entered your mind with dirty hands. You had not prayed. You had not breathed deeply. You had not remembered that you were alive. You had not asked yourself whether today you would live with virtue or be dragged around by circumstance. That is why I say this to you. Do not open your eyes like a slave. A slave is not always chained with iron. Some people are chained by a paycheck. Some are chained by praise. Some are chained by the fear of being abandoned. Some are chained by the past. Some are chained by a voice in their own mind that keeps whispering, "You are not enough, not rich enough, not strong enough, not loved enough, not successful enough, not worthy enough to be at peace." But Stoicism does not come to decorate your chains. Stoicism comes to make you look at them. Epictetus was once a real slave. His body belonged to another man, but his mind did not. And from that suffering, he gave the world one of the sharpest truths in Stoic philosophy. It is not events that disturb people. It is their judgment about events. Listen carefully. An email does not destroy you by itself. A criticism does not make you worthless by itself. One bad morning does not turn you into a failure. Your untrained mind takes those events, sharpens them into a blade, and uses them against you. That is why this video is not really about your morning. It is about the throne of your inner life. It is about the first moment of the day, when you either reclaim your reason or bow before chaos, like someone who has forgotten he was born to be free. I will guide you through 7 small chapters of a Stoic morning. You will see why the world is always trying to steal the throne of your reason. You will see why gratitude is not a polite sentence, but the first weapon of a Stoic mind. You will see why yesterday is dead, and yet you keep digging it up every morning. You will see how the dichotomy of control helps you keep the key inside the prison of your own mind. You will see why an impression is only a signal, not a command. You will see why kindness must have a backbone. And you will see why Memento Mori reminds you that one day, you may beg for the ordinary morning you are wasting right now. Do not treat this as another video to play in the background. Treat it as a return to your breath, a return to your reason, a return to the highest part of you, the part that has been buried under noise for far too long. I will not promise you that life will become easy after this. A Stoic does not sell illusions. I will not promise you that you will never feel pain again. I will not promise you that money will stop mattering, that people will stop disappointing you. That loss will never find you. That loneliness will never sit beside you in the dark. But I will promise you something more serious. If you listen until the end, you will learn how to wake up without surrendering your soul to anything outside of you. You will understand that freedom does not begin when you have more money. It does not begin when people love you more. It does not begin when the world finally recognizes your worth. Freedom begins when you open your eyes and say in silence, "Today, this mind belongs to me." Today, fear may appear, but it will not sit on the throne. Today, the past may call my name, but I will not crawl back into the grave of who I used to be. Today, the world may be loud, but I will not open my eyes like a slave. So stay here for a moment. Do not run from yourself. Before this day swallows your attention, let me place a small fire of Stoicism in your hands. Because maybe what you need is not a new morning. Maybe what you need is a new way to enter the morning as a free human being. Do not let the world steal the throne of your reason. The first thing you give your attention to becomes the first ruler of your day. And most people crown the wrong ruler before their feet even touch the floor. You wake up, your eyes open. Your body has been given another morning. Your lungs are still working. Your heart is still beating in the dark without asking for applause. But before you honor that miracle, your hand reaches for the phone. The screen lights up, and there it is. A message you did not expect. A bill waiting to be paid. A cold email from work. A headline written to frighten you. A photo of someone who looks richer, happier, more loved, more successful than you. You are not even fully awake yet, and already your mind has been invaded. Comparison enters first, then fear, then urgency, then resentment, and just like that, the throne of your reason is no longer yours. This is not a small habit. This is the first theft of the day. The world does not need to break your body if it can own your attention. It does not need iron chains if it can train you to reach for your own distraction. And the result is simple. You begin the day as a reactor, not a ruler. You answer before you choose. You compare before you breathe. You worry before you remember what kind of human being you want to be. The Stoics understood this better than most people today. They knew that the real prison is not always outside the body. Sometimes the real prison is inside the mind. A man can walk freely through the city and still be enslaved by fear. A woman can earn money, receive praise, and look strong on the outside, yet still be owned by one cruel sentence, one ignored message, one memory from yesterday. So I ask you, when you wake up, who owns your mind first? Is it you, or is it the world? Is it reason, or is it noise? Is it virtue, or is it panic wearing the mask of responsibility? This is where Stoicism begins. Not in books, not in quotes, not in pretending to be emotionless. It begins in the first private moment when you decide that your mind will not be available for anyone or anything to invade. Picture a man waking up to an email from his manager. The subject line says, "We need to talk today." That is all. 5 simple words. But his mind is already in court. It is defending itself. It is imagining failure, humiliation, unemployment, debt, shame. He has not stood up. He has not washed his face. He has not spoken to anyone. Yet inside him, the entire day has already collapsed. This is what an untrained mind does. It takes a small object and builds a prison around it. The email may be harmless. The meeting may be ordinary. The words may mean nothing more than a simple conversation. But because reason is not on the throne, urgency becomes a tyrant. And when urgency rules, everything feels like danger. A delayed reply feels like rejection. A bill feels like doom. A mistake feels like identity. A busy day feels like punishment. But listen carefully. Urgency is not always truth. Sometimes urgency is just panic, dressed like importance. The world will call everything urgent, because urgency makes obedience servants. But reason asks a higher question. Is this within my control? Is this aligned with virtue? Is this worthy of my first breath? That question can save your morning. That question can save your character. Because the moment you pause, you are no longer possessed by the first thing that appears. The Stoics called these first appearances impressions. An impression is what shows up in the mind before judgment. A message left unread, a face that looks disappointed, a number in your bank account, a memory from yesterday, a silence from someone you love. These things arrive. They knock against your awareness, but they are not commands. They are not kings. They are not gods. They are only visitors. The problem is that most people give them the throne immediately. They say, "This silence means I am unwanted. This mistake means I am a failure. This low bank balance means I am doomed. This rejection means I am unlovable. This delay means something terrible is coming." And just like that, an impression becomes a sentence. A thought becomes a ruler. A shadow becomes a monster. This is why Epictetus taught that people are not disturbed by events themselves, but by the judgments they place upon those events. The event is one thing. Your story about the event is another. And often your story is the sharper blade. So here is the practice. When you wake up, do not touch the world immediately. Do not reach for the phone as if it is your master. Do not let strangers, headlines, bills, messages, or memories speak before your own soul has spoken. Place your feet on the floor. Breathe slowly. Let your body know you have returned. Then say this to yourself. My attention is mine. My judgment is mine. My character is mine. The world may speak later, but it will not speak first. This is not weakness. This is command. This is not avoiding life. This is preparing to meet life without being owned by it. Because reason does not rise by accident. It must be trained. If you repeat panic every morning, you become efficient at panic. If you repeat comparison, you become fluent in envy. If you repeat distraction, silence begins to feel uncomfortable. But the opposite is also true. If you repeat attention, attention strengthens. If you repeat restraint, restraint becomes natural. If you repeat gratitude, gratitude deepens. If you repeat reason, reason learns how to stand. Many people want Stoicism because they want to feel less pain. That is understandable, but it is not the highest purpose. The Stoic path does not exist merely to make you calm. It exists to make you worthy of your own respect. A calm coward is still a coward. A peaceful liar is still a liar. A disciplined, selfish man is still spiritually poor. Reason must serve virtue, or it becomes only a sharper tool for the ego. So when you reclaim the throne of your reason, do not do it just to feel better. Do it so you can live better. Do it so anger does not speak for you. Do it so fear does not choose for you. Do it so praise does not bribe you. Do it so pain does not turn you into someone you would be ashamed to become. The throne of reason is not for comfort. It is for character. And this is the harsh truth. Many people are not living their own lives. They are living as unpaid servants for other people's opinions, old wounds, imagined fears, and glowing screens. They wake up already owned. They move through the day already rented out. They go to sleep exhausted because they spent another day defending a kingdom they never truly governed. But you do not have to continue like that. The throne can be reclaimed, not through rage, not through escape, not through pretending nothing hurts, but through one disciplined act repeated every morning. Return to reason before you return to the world. Let the first voice be yours. Let the first breath be conscious. Let the first judgment be clean. Let the first command be simple. This mind belongs to me. And once reason is back on the throne, the next weapon must be placed in your hand. Not pride, not revenge, not ambition. Gratitude. Because the person who wakes with gratitude cannot be easily ruled by lack. The person who remembers the gift of being alive is harder to enslave with comparison. And that is where we go next. Gratitude is not a polite thank you. It is the first weapon of a Stoic soul. Gratitude is not a polite thank you. It is the first weapon of a Stoic soul. Gratitude is not weakness. Gratitude is not pretending your life is beautiful when it is falling apart. Gratitude is not a soft little sentence you say because someone told you it would make you feel better. Real gratitude is a weapon. And the first enemy it cuts down is the belief that your life is not enough. Most people wake up already begging for more money, more attention, more approval, more success, more proof that they matter. They open their eyes, and before they even breathe deeply, they start counting what is missing. The job they do not have, the body they do not like, the relationship that ended, the person who did not text back, the number in the bank account that still feels too small. And because they begin the morning in lack becomes the voice that guides the entire day. This is how modern slavery begins, not with chains around the wrists, but with hunger inside the mind, a hunger that says, I cannot be at peace until something outside me changes. The Stoic rejects that lie, not because the Stoic has no problems, not because the Stoic has no bills, no grief, no pressure, no loneliness, but because the Stoic understands something the world wants you to forget. If you cannot recognize what has already been given, you will never be free with what you later receive. Imagine a man waking up in a small apartment. The room is cold, the rent is late, his phone is cracked. There is not much food in the kitchen. He looks at his life and says, I have nothing to be grateful for. But listen carefully. He has breath. He has sight. He has a mind that can still choose. He has one more morning that was not promised to him. He has the chance to repair one mistake. He has the chance to send one honest message. He has the chance to work, to learn, to endure, to begin again. Is that nothing? Or has his pain trained him to insult the gifts that still remain? This is the harsh truth. Many people do not lack blessings. They lack the discipline to notice them. They are surrounded by ordinary miracles and still feel poor because comparison has blinded them. They can walk, but they envy someone's car. They can breathe, but they envy someone's house. They can hear the voice of a loved one, but they envy someone's vacation. They have one more day to live, but they waste it wishing they were someone else. That is not ambition. That is spiritual poverty. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to wake in the morning and remember the privilege of being alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. He was not saying life would be easy. He was an emperor surrounded by war, illness, betrayal, duty, and death. He was saying that before the burdens of the day arrive, the soul must remember the gift of the day itself. Because if you begin with resentment, even success will taste bitter. But if you begin with gratitude, even difficulty can become training. Gratitude does not remove pain. It gives pain a different master. Without gratitude, pain becomes evidence that life is against you. With gratitude, pain becomes material for strength. Without gratitude, a hard morning says, I am cursed. With gratitude, a hard morning says, I am still here, and because I am still here, I can still act with courage. That difference is not small. That difference is the distance between a victim and a stoic. So when you wake up, do not rush into complaint. Complaint is easy. Any undisciplined mind can complain. It takes no wisdom to list what is wrong. It takes no courage to worship what is missing. But gratitude requires strength, because it forces the mind to stand in front of reality and say, not everything has been taken from me. This breath remains. This body remains. This mind remains. This chance remains. This moment remains. And if something remains, then I am not defeated. This is why gratitude is the first weapon of a Stoic soul. It fights entitlement. It fights envy. It fights despair. It fights the addiction to more. It fights the modern disease of looking at your own life as if it is worthless simply because someone else seems to have more. But do not misunderstand me. Gratitude does not mean you stop striving. The Stoic is not lazy. The Stoic does not sit in poverty and call it wisdom. The Stoic does not avoid responsibility and call it peace. No, a grateful person can still build. A grateful person can still work hard. A grateful person can still desire improvement. But he does not build from hatred of his life. He builds from respect for the life he has been given. That is a very different energy. One person says, I must become successful because I am nothing. Another person says, I will become stronger because life has trusted me with another day. The first one is driven by shame. The second one is guided by virtue. And only the second one can be free. Here is the morning practice. Before you touch the phone, before you check the world, before you let the noise enter, place your hand on your chest. Feel that quiet beating. You did not command it to continue through the night. You did not earn every breath. You were given this morning. So say it slowly. I am grateful to be here. Not because everything is perfect. Not because my problems disappeared. Not because I have everything I want. But because I still have the power to choose who I will become today. Say it again. I am grateful to be here. Let the words become heavier than a slogan. Let them become a return to the body, a return to the present, a return to the truth that life is fragile, and nothing in this day is guaranteed. Memento Mori makes gratitude sharper. Remember death, and suddenly the ordinary becomes sacred. The cup of coffee, the quiet room, the voice of someone you love, the sunlight touching the wall, the chance to fix what yesterday damaged. One day, you may beg for a morning this simple. One day, you may wish you could come back to this exact moment, even with its problems, even with its uncertainty, even with its unfinished dreams. So do not treat it like trash while you still have it. The ungrateful mind is always somewhere else. It lives in the future, saying, I will be happy when. It lives in comparison, saying, I would be peaceful if I had what they have. It lives in resentment, saying, life owes me more than this. But the Stoic mind returns to what is present and says, I will not insult this day by pretending it is nothing. Gratitude is how you stop being owned by lack. It does not make you passive. It makes you grounded. It reminds you that you are not starting from zero. You are starting from breath. You are starting from awareness. You are starting from choice. And choice is a kingdom no one can take unless you surrender it. So tomorrow morning, when the world tries to make you feel behind, pause. When your mind starts counting what is missing, pause. When comparison whispers that your life is small, pause. Then answer with discipline. I am grateful to be here. This one sentence will not pay every bill. It will not heal every wound. It will not bring back every person who left. But it will return your mind to the only place where strength can begin, the present. And once you stand in the present with gratitude, yesterday loses some of its power. Because the grateful soul does not keep digging up old graves. It knows that a new morning has been placed in its hands. And that brings us to the next teaching. Yesterday is dead. But many people keep resurrecting it every morning. Yesterday is dead, but you keep digging it up every morning. Yesterday is dead, But many people wake up and drag its corpse into the new day. They call it memory. They call it regret. They call it being realistic. But often, it is just emotional slavery dressed as reflection. You wake up, and before the morning has even touched your face, the past begins to speak. That mistake you made, that message you should not have sent, that opportunity you lost, that person who left, that sentence someone said that still lives inside your chest like a hidden wound. And instead of standing in the new day, you kneel beside the grave of yesterday and start digging again. This is one of the cruelest habits of the human mind. It takes what can no longer be changed and forces you to suffer it again. Not once, not twice, but every morning. A person can lose one argument and replay it for months. A person can fail one time and build an identity around it. A person can be rejected by one human being and spend years believing they are unworthy of love. But listen carefully. The past may explain your pain. It does not have the right to command your future. The Stoic does not deny yesterday. The Stoic studies it, learns from it, extracts the lesson, then refuses to become its prisoner. There is a difference between reflection and resurrection. Reflection says, "What can this teach me?" Resurrection says, "Let me suffer this again." Reflection builds wisdom. Resurrection builds chains. Imagine a man waking up after a bad day. Yesterday he lost his temper. He said something harsh to someone he loves. Now the morning comes. His body is rested, but his mind is not. He opens his eyes and immediately feels shame. He sees the scene again, the words, the face, the silence afterward. And now he has a choice. He can use the pain as a teacher, or he can use the pain as a whip. If he is untrained, he will punish himself all day. He will say, "I always ruin things. I am a terrible person. Nothing ever changes. I am broken." And because he believes this, he becomes heavy. He avoids the person. He delays the apology. He hides behind guilt because guilt feels like payment. But guilt is not repair. Shame is not virtue. Suffering repeatedly is not the same as becoming better. The Stoic asks a cleaner question. What is within my control now? Can I apologize? Can I speak honestly? Can I correct my behavior? Can I become more careful with my tongue? Can I train my anger before it harms again? That is where freedom begins. Not in pretending yesterday never happened, but in refusing to let yesterday become your master. This is the dichotomy of control at work. You do not control the fact that yesterday happened. You do not control every consequence. You do not control whether another person forgives you immediately. You do not control how the past is remembered by others. But you do control your next act. You control whether you tell the truth. You control whether you repair what can be repaired. You control whether you repeat the same weakness or turn it into discipline. And that is enough for a free person to begin. Most people misunderstand letting go. They think letting go means saying, "It did not matter." No, some things mattered deeply. Some losses changed you. Some failures embarrassed you. Some betrayals wounded something sacred. Some mornings still carry the weight of what you wish had never happened. The Stoic is not a stone. He feels the wound, but he does not worship it. He does not build a temple around his suffering and visit it every morning like a faithful servant. He says, "This hurt me, this taught me, this shaped me, but this will not rule me." That is the line between pain and slavery. Pain visits. Slavery lets pain sit on the throne. So when yesterday rises in your mind, do not fight it with panic. Do not pretend you are above it. Look at it like a philosopher. Ask it why it has returned. Ask it what lesson remains unfinished. Ask it what action is still required. If there is an apology to make it. If there is a debt to pay, begin paying it. If there is a habit to break, start today. If there is nothing left to do, then release the weight. Because carrying what cannot be changed is not responsibility. It is self-punishment. And self-punishment often looks noble to people who do not know how to heal. They say, "I cannot forgive myself. as if endless suffering proves sincerity. But the universe does not need you to bleed forever to prove that you learned. It needs you to live differently. That is the price of wisdom, not regret. Transformation. The past is useful only when it makes you more awake. If it only makes you smaller, it has become a tyrant. Seneca warned that we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. And nowhere is this more obvious than in the way people relive yesterday. The event happened once, but the mind repeats it 1,000 times. The rejection happened once, but the heart keeps reopening the wound. The failure happened once, but the identity keeps wearing it like a name. This is why a new morning is sacred. It gives you a place to interrupt the pattern. It gives you a clean breath, a clean choice, a clean act. Not a perfect life, not a erased past, but a chance to stop cooperating with the old prison. So here is the morning practice. When you wake up and yesterday begins to speak, do not answer immediately. Sit still, breathe, name what has appeared. Regret is here, shame is here, anger is here, grief is here. Then say this: yesterday does not own me. Say it slowly. Yesterday does not own me. Not because I deny it. Not because I learned nothing. Not because I am innocent of every mistake. But because today belongs to my choices. Today belongs to my character. Today belongs to what I do next. That sentence is not magic. It is discipline. It creates distance between you and the memory. It reminds you that you are not the worst thing you did. You are not the person who abandoned you. You are not the failure that humiliated you. You are not the old version of yourself still begging to be punished. You are the one who can choose now, and choice is the beginning of dignity. There will be mornings when the past feels strong. There will be mornings when one memory sits on your chest like a stone. There will be mornings when you want to disappear into what happened. On those mornings, do not ask for a perfect mind. Ask for one honest action. Wash your face. Make the call. Write the apology. Do the work. Stand up straight. Refuse the old lie. Move 1 inch toward virtue. A Stoic life is not built by dramatic declarations. It is built by small acts of command, repeated when the soul is tired. And this is the harsh truth. Some people do not stay trapped in the past because the past is too powerful. They stay trapped because the past has become familiar. Pain can become an identity. Regret can become a home. Shame can become a language. And after a while, freedom feels strange because slavery is what the mind recognizes. But you were not born to live as a museum of old wounds. You were born to meet this day with reason, courage, justice, and self-restraint. Yesterday had its hour. Today has arrived. Do not place a dead day on a living throne. Take the lesson. Leave the corpse. Step into the morning with empty hands and a trained mind. Because once you stop belonging to yesterday, you are ready to face the next truth. Much of what tortured you was never yours to control in the first place. The dichotomy of control teaches you to keep the key inside the prison of your mind. Much of what tortured you was never yours to control in the first place. That is the truth most people resist, because it destroys the illusion they have been worshipping. You think peace will come when people finally understand you, when the money finally feels safe, when the past finally makes sense, when the future finally becomes certain, when someone finally apologizes, when life finally stops surprising you with pain. But listen carefully. If your peace depends on what you cannot control, then your peace is not yours. It is rented. It is borrowed. It can be taken away by one message, one delay, one rejection, one bill, one memory, one person waking up in a bad mood. This is why so many people feel trapped. Not because every wall around them is real, but because they keep handing the key to things outside themselves. Epictetus, who had once been a slave in the physical world, understood this inner slavery better than almost anyone. He taught that some things are up to us, and some things are not up to us. That sounds simple, almost too simple, but hidden inside that sentence is a blade sharp enough to cut through years of suffering. What is up to you? Your judgment, your intention, your choices, your discipline, your response, your character. What is not fully up to you? Other people's opinions, the past, the economy, the weather, the body aging, the fact that people may leave, the timing of success, the outcome after you have done your part. Most people live backward. They obsess over what is not theirs and neglect what is. They try to control how others see them, but they do not control their own tongue. They try to control whether someone stays, but they do not control whether they act with dignity. They try to control the future, but they do not control the habits that are building it. They try to control the outcome, but they do not control the effort. And then they wonder why their minds feel like a prison. Imagine a woman lying awake at night. She has sent a message to someone she loves. No reply. The room is dark. The phone is beside her. She checks it once, then again, then again. Nothing. Now her mind begins its punishment. Maybe he is losing interest. Maybe I said too much. Maybe I am not important. Maybe I am being abandoned. Her chest tightens. Her dignity shrinks. Her whole inner world is now chained to a screen that refuses to light up. But what is actually within her control? Not the reply, not his feelings, not his timing, not his honesty, not whether he values her. What is hers? Whether she panics, whether she invents a story without evidence, whether she abandons herself while waiting for someone else, whether she uses silence as proof that she is worthless, whether she returns to her own center. This is the prison most people do not see. They suffer because they keep trying to unlock doors that do not belong to them. The dichotomy of control does not make life painless. It makes life clean. It separates what is yours from what is not yours. And that separation is mercy. Because once you know something is not yours to control, you can stop bleeding for it. You can still care. You can still love. You can still work, you can still hope, but you no longer place your soul in the hands of the outcome. That is freedom, not getting everything you want, but refusing to become a prisoner when you do not. Think of a man who loses his job. The email arrives. The meeting is short. The words are professional, cold, final. His position is gone. Now the first wave hits him. Fear, shame, anger, humiliation. He imagines what his family will think. He imagines unpaid bills. He imagines friends silently judging him. He imagines himself as a failure. But the Stoic within him must ask one question before the mind builds a cage. What is mine here? The company's decision is not his. The economy is not his. The opinions of others are not his. The fact that it happened is not his anymore. But his next hour is his. His honesty is his. His courage is his. His willingness to update the resume, make the call, reduce the unnecessary expense, wake up tomorrow, and act without self-hatred. That is his. And sometimes that is enough to keep a man from collapsing. The world may take a position from you. It may take comfort. It may take status. It may take applause. It may even take people you thought would stay. But it cannot take your power to choose your response unless you surrender it. This is why the Stoic does not ask, how do I control life? The Stoic asks, how do I stop life from controlling the part of me that should remain free? That question changes everything. Because suddenly, your attention returns to the only place where your strength actually lives. Inside your own judgment, inside your own conduct, inside your own character. The modern world trains you to look outward for the key. It tells you peace is in more money, more followers, more approval, more certainty, more beauty, more control over other people. But Stoicism says, no, the key is not outside the prison. The key is in your own hand. You were just taught to look everywhere else. So here is the practice. When something disturbs you, pause before you obey the disturbance. Ask clearly, is this within my control? If the answer is yes, act with discipline. Do not complain. Do not delay. Do not dramatize. Act. If the answer is no, release your demand over it, not your care. not your responsibility, not your humanity. Release your demand. There is a difference. You can care about someone without controlling them. You can work hard without controlling the result. You can prepare for tomorrow without pretending tomorrow belongs to you. You can grieve what happened without letting grief become your owner. This is a mature soul. A childish mind says, life must obey me before I can be calm. A Stoic mind says, I will obey virtue even when life does not obey me. That is the turning point. Because the goal is not to become numb. The goal is to become unshaken in the place where your freedom lives. You may still feel pain. You may still feel fear. You may still feel the ache of uncertainty. But you do not have to bow to it. You do not have to build your identity around it. You do not have to let it drag your hands away from what can still be done. This is the harsh truth. A large part of human suffering comes from trying to control the uncontrollable, then neglecting the controllable. You cannot control whether people respect you, but you can control whether you behave respectably. You cannot control whether the past hurt you, but you can control whether today becomes another altar to that pain. You cannot control whether life is fair, but you can control whether unfairness turns you cruel. You cannot control when death comes, but you can control whether this day is wasted in resentment. That is where the key is. Not in the world becoming gentle, but in you becoming governed from within. So tomorrow morning, before the noise begins, say this to yourself. Some things are mine, some things are not. My judgment is mine. My effort is mine. My character is mine. The rest may visit my life, but it will not own my soul. And when you live this way, something powerful happens. The prison walls begin to lose their authority, not because life became easy, but because you stopped asking life for permission to be free. And once you understand what is yours to control, you are ready for the next teaching. Because before you can choose your response, you must understand the first thing that enters the mind. An impression is only a knock. Do not let it become the master of your soul. An impression is only a signal. Do not let it become the master of your soul. Before you can control your response, you must understand the first thing that enters your mind. The Stoics called it an impression. An impression is the first appearance of something in your awareness. A message with no reply, a strange look from someone at work, a number in your bank account, a memory from yesterday, a sudden pain in your body, a sentence someone said with a cold tone. At first, it is only a signal. It arrives. It appears. It touches the mind. But then something dangerous happens. You start adding meaning. He did not reply, so he must not care. She looked at me that way, so she must hate me. My bank account is low, so I am doomed. I failed once, so I am a failure. They did not invite me, so I am unwanted. And just like that, a signal becomes a sentence. A moment becomes a prophecy. A thought becomes a master. This is where most people lose their freedom. Not when life happens, but when they believe the first story their mind tells about life. The modern mind is fast, too fast. It sees one small thing and immediately builds an entire tragedy around it. It does not wait for evidence. It does not ask for wisdom. It does not consult virtue. It simply reacts. And then the person says, this is just how I feel. But feeling something strongly does not make it true. A terrified mind can lie loudly. A wounded heart can misread reality. An anxious thought can dress itself like intuition. That is why the Stoic does not bow to the first impression. The Stoic pauses. The Stoic examines. The Stoic asks, what is actually here? Not what do I fear is here. Not what does my wound say is here. Not what does my insecurity want to prove. What is actually here? Imagine a woman waking up and seeing no reply from someone she loves. The phone is silent. Nothing else has happened. No explanation has been given. No truth has been revealed. But her mind begins to run. Maybe he is losing interest. Maybe I said too much. Maybe I am too needy. Maybe I am always the one who cares more. Maybe I am about to be abandoned again. Now her chest tightens. Her breath becomes shallow. Her mourning loses its peace. She has not been rejected. She has not been betrayed. She has not been told anything, but she is already suffering as if the worst has happened. Why? Because she did not treat the impression as a signal. She treated it as a verdict. Later, the reply comes. "Sorry, I fell asleep. That is all." The tragedy was built inside her own judgment. This is not stupidity. This is an untrained mind trying to protect itself. But protection without reason becomes a prison. Epictetus taught that people are disturbed not by things themselves, but by the views they take of them. This is one of the sharpest teachings in Stoic philosophy. The event is one thing, your interpretation is another, and between the two, your freedom lives. A person insults you. That is an event. You decide, I must destroy them, or I am weak. That is judgment. Someone ignores you. That is an event. You decide, I am worthless. That is judgment. You lose money. That is an event. You decide, my life is over. That is judgment. A plan fails. That is an event. You decide, I will never succeed. That is judgment. The Stoic does not pretend the event is pleasant. The Stoic simply refuses to add unnecessary poison to it. Pain may be real, but panic is often manufactured. Loss may be real, but the belief that you are finished is manufactured. Rejection may be real, but the belief that you are unlovable is manufactured. This is where your discipline must become sharp. When an impression appears, do not obey it immediately. Hold it before the light of reason. Ask it questions. Are you true? Are you complete? Are you useful? Are you within my control? Are you asking me to act with virtue or to react from fear? This pause may look small from the outside, but inside the soul, it is a revolution. Because every time you pause before believing an impression, you weaken the old master. You stop letting anxiety write your laws. You stop letting insecurity define your worth. You stop letting every emotional spark burn down your judgment. The early Stoics believed that human beings were meant to live according to reason and nature. The Middle Stoics carried that wisdom into duty and social life. The later Stoics, especially Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, made it practical for people living in pressure, politics, illness, insult, and uncertainty. Their teaching was not, feel nothing. Their teaching was, do not let feeling become your commander. There is a great difference. A Stoic can feel anger, but he does not have to become anger. A Stoic can feel fear, but he does not have to become fear. A Stoic can feel sadness, but he does not have to hand sadness the authority to define reality. You are allowed to feel the first wave. You are not required to drown inside the story that follows. So here is the practice. When something triggers you, name it. Say quietly, an impression has appeared. Not truth, not destiny, not command. An impression. Then breathe once before you act. Just once. That single breath creates space. And in that space, reason can return. If someone speaks harshly, pause. If the phone stays silent, pause. If your mind predicts disaster, pause. If shame rises from yesterday, pause. Do not rush to sign your soul over to the first thought that arrives. Ask what virtue requires now. Does wisdom ask me to wait? Does courage ask me to speak? Does justice ask me to be fair? Does self-restraint ask me to remain silent? This is how you become difficult to manipulate. Not because nothing affects you, but because not everything controls you. The world can still present images, words, delays, losses, and uncertainties. But it cannot force you to agree with the first meaning your frightened mind creates. That agreement is yours. That assent is yours. And where your assent goes, your life begins to follow. This is the harsh truth. Many people are not destroyed by reality. They are destroyed by the meaning they attach to reality. They suffer twice. First from the event, then from the story. First from the pain, then from the identity. First from the loss, then from the belief that they are no longer whole. But you do not have to live as a servant of every impression. You can train yourself to see clearly. You can say, "This appeared in my mind, but it is not my master." This fear is loud, but loud does not mean true. This thought is painful, but pain does not make it sacred. This feeling is real, but it is not allowed to rule my conduct. That is Stoic freedom. Not a life without disturbance, but a soul that refuses to turn every disturbance into a throne. So when the next impression arrives, do not bow. Observe it. Questionit. Separate the event from the story. Separate the signal from the command. Separate what happened from what your wound decided it means. And then choose with reason. Because the person who masters impressions is no longer dragged by every shadow. He becomes steady. He becomes awake. He becomes dangerous to every force that once controlled him. And once you understand that every impression does not deserve your obedience, you are ready for the next teaching. Kindness is not weakness, but if it has no backbone, it becomes another form of slavery. Kindness with a backbone is virtue, not weakness. Kindness is not weakness, but kindness without a backbone can become another form of slavery. Many people hear the word kindness and imagine softness. They imagine smiling when they are hurt, staying silent when they are disrespected, saying yes when the soul is screaming no, forgiving quickly because they are afraid of conflict, giving endlessly because they fear being abandoned. But that is not Stoic kindness. That is fear wearing the mask of goodness. Real kindness is not the absence of strength. Real kindness is strength that has been disciplined. It is the power to remain human without becoming a victim. It is the power to speak truth without cruelty. It is the power to set a boundary without hatred. It is the power to walk away without revenge. The Stoics did not worship comfort. They worshipped virtue. And virtue is not soft. Virtue has bones. Virtue can love. Virtue can forgive. Virtue can serve. But virtue does not kneel before manipulation. Marcus Aurelius wrote that kindness is invincible when it is sincere and not false. That matters, because false kindness is everywhere. A man says yes to everyone because he wants to be liked. Then he goes home resentful. A woman keeps giving to people who never respect her. Then she calls it love, while her spirit grows tired. A worker stays silent while being mistreated. Then he calls it patience because he is afraid to lose approval. But inside, something rots. Resentment grows where truth was not spoken. Bitterness grows where boundaries were not honored. And sooner or later, the person who tried to be nice becomes quietly angry at everyone. This is why Stoicism must correct your understanding of kindness. You were not born to become cruel, but you were also not born to become a doormat for wounded people. Imagine someone in your life keeps taking from you your time, your energy, your attention, your forgiveness. They hurt you, then return with a soft apology. They cross the same line again and again. And every time, you tell yourself, I must be kind. So you stay. You explain. You excuse. You shrink. But ask yourself honestly, is this kindness? Or is this fear of losing them? Is this love? Or is this the terror of being alone? Is this virtue? Or is this self-abandonment? The Stoic does not answer from panic. The Stoic answers from reason. And reason may say, be gentle. But reason may also say, enough. That word can be holy. Enough. Not screamed from hatred. Not thrown like a weapon, but spoken from self-respect. Enough. I will not repay harm with harm, but I will not keep offering my peace to someone who treats it like trash. That is not cruelty. That is justice. And justice is one of the core virtues of the Stoic life. People often confuse kindness with being endlessly available. But the kindest person is not the one who has no boundaries. The kindest person is the one whose boundaries keep love clean. Because without boundaries, love turns into resentment. Service turns into exhaustion. Patience turns into self-betrayal. And forgiveness turns into permission for the same wound to happen again. A Stoic can be kind and still say no. A Stoic can forgive and still leave. A Stoic can understand someone's pain and still refuse to be punished by it. A Stoic can wish someone well and still stop giving them access to the throne of his inner life. This is maturity. Not coldness, not bitterness, not emotional revenge. Maturity. Because the goal is not to win the argument. The goal is to preserve the soul. Let me make this practical. Someone insults you. The old self wants to strike back. The weak self wants to collapse. But the Stoic self pauses. It asks, what does virtue require here? Wisdom may say, do not answer every insult. Courage may say, speak clearly. Justice may say, name the disrespect. Self-restraint may say, do not become what wounded you. So you respond with firmness. Not poison, not begging, not silence that hides fear. Firmness. You might say, I will not continue this conversation if you speak to me that way. Simple. Clean. No drama. No performance. No hatred. That is kindness with a backbone. You do not destroy the other person, but you also do not abandon yourself. The modern world often rewards two extremes. Be cruel, and people call you strong. Be passive, and people call you kind. Stoicism rejects both. Cruelty is not strength. It is lack of self-command. Passivity is not kindness. It is fear of consequence. The Stoic path is higher. Be good without being weak. Be firm without being vicious. Be calm without being silent when truth is required. Be forgiving without becoming available to repeated harm. This is difficult. That is why it is virtue. Anyone can be nice when it costs nothing. Anyone can be gentle when no one has touched their wound. Anyone can speak about compassion when they are comfortable. But when someone disrespects you, disappoints you, uses you, misunderstands you, or tests your patience, that is when your philosophy becomes real. That is when you discover whether your kindness is rooted in virtue or in fear. The Stoic does not ask, how do I make everyone like me? The Stoic asks, how do I act rightly, even if they misunderstand me? That question frees you, because the need to be liked is one of the most polished chains in the modern world. It looks harmless, it feels social, it sounds humble, but it can make you betray your values one small yes at a time. Yes, when you are exhausted. Yes, when you know it is wrong. Yes, when you should have said no. Yes, because you fear conflict. Yes, because you fear being left. And then one day you look at your life and realize you have been generous with everyone except yourself. That is not virtue. That is imbalance. So tomorrow morning, before you enter the day, practice this thought. Today, I will be kind without surrendering my soul. Say it slowly. Today, I will be kind without surrendering my soul. I will not repay darkness with darkness, but I will not confuse peace with permission. I will not let anger make me cruel, but I will not let fear make me small. I will speak with respect. I will listen with patience. I will act with justice. And when the moment requires it, I will say no without hatred. This is how kindness becomes powerful. Not loud, not dramatic, not desperate to be praised, powerful, because it is chosen from character. And anything chosen from character leaves a mark. This is the harsh truth. If your kindness depends on being afraid to disappoint people, it is not kindness. It is captivity. If your forgiveness allows others to keep wounding you without consequence, it is not wisdom. It is self-neglect. If your peace requires you to swallow every truth, it is not peace. It is silence, with a wound underneath it. But when kindness stands with reason, it becomes invincible. It does not need applause. It does not need control. It does not need revenge. It simply does what is right, because the soul refuses to become ugly. That is Stoic virtue, to remain human in a world that tempts you to become hard, to remain firm in a world that tries to make goodness look weak, to remain just, even when wounded, to remain gentle, without becoming available to disrespect. So go into the day with this discipline. Be kind, but do not disappear. Be generous, but do not bleed yourself empty. Be patient, but do not let patience become a hiding place for fear. Be forgiving, but do not hand repeated access to people who keep proving they do not honor it. Kindness with a backbone is one of the rarest forms of strength. And once you understand this, you are ready for the final teaching. Because even if you guard your reason, practice gratitude, release yesterday, control what is yours, master impressions, and live with virtue, one truth still stands over every morning. You will not have endless time. Memento Mori is waiting at the edge of the day. Memento Mori reminds you to wake up free before time turns to dust. You will not have endless mornings. That truth is not meant to depress you. It is meant to wake you up. One day, you will open your eyes for the last time. One day, the ordinary sounds you ignore will become unreachable. The quiet room, the warm cup in your hand, the voice of someone you love, the simple chance to stand up, breathe, and begin again. All of it is temporary. And because it is temporary, it is sacred. This is what the Stoics called Memento Mori. Remember death, not because death is beautiful, not because pain is romantic, not because life should be dark, but because a person who forgets death starts treating life like trash. He wastes the morning, he wastes the conversation, he wastes the body, he wastes the people who still love him. He wastes the chance to become better because he secretly believes there will always be more time. But there may not be. That is the harsh truth. You do not know how many mornings remain. You do not know how many more times you will hear your mother's voice. You do not know how many more meals you will share with someone you care about. You do not know how many more chances you will have to apologize, to forgive, to work with honor, to speak the truth, to stop living like a slave, to things that will not matter when your breath is leaving you. Imagine a man lying in a hospital bed. The room is white. The machines are quiet, but constant. His hands look older than he remembers. Outside the window, the world continues without asking his permission. Cars move. People complain. Phones ring. Coffee is poured. Someone is angry about traffic. Someone is jealous of a stranger online. Someone is wasting an entire day because one person did not text back. And the man in the bed would give almost anything for one ordinary morning. Not a perfect morning. Not a rich morning. Not a famous morning. Just one more morning where he could stand up without help. Feel the floor beneath his feet. Drink something warm. Tell the truth to someone he loves. Walk outside and feel the air on his face. That is what Memento Mori does. It strips away illusion. It asks you to look at your life with the eyes of someone who may not get it back. And suddenly, many things lose their false power. The insult becomes smaller. The delay becomes smaller. The opinion of strangers becomes smaller. The need to impress becomes smaller. The obsession with being ahead becomes smaller. And what remains? The breath, the choice, the character, the people you love, the work that matters, the soul you must not betray. Seneca warned that life is not short because we lack time, but because we waste so much of it. That sentence should disturb you, because most people do not lose their lives all at once. They lose them in pieces. One distracted morning at a time. One postponed apology at a time. 1 hour of comparison at a time. One silent resentment at a time. One day spent waiting for life to begin, while life is already happening. You say, I will be peaceful later. I will be grateful later. I will change later. I will call them later. I will stop living in fear later. But later is not a place you own. Later is a promise life never signed. The Stoic understands this. He does not wait for death to become serious about living. He lets death become the advisor that purifies his priorities. So when you wake up, remember this. This day is not guaranteed. This body is not permanent. This pain will pass. This pleasure will pass. This problem will pass. This chance will pass. And because it will pass, you must meet it with presence. Not panic, presence. Not despair, discipline. Not laziness, gratitude. not fear. Virtue. Memento Mori is not a command to live recklessly. It is not saying, life is short, so chase every pleasure. That is not wisdom. That is another form of slavery. The Stoic does not say, I may die, so I will waste myself on impulse. The Stoic says, I may die, so I must not waste this day on what is unworthy of my soul. I will not spend this day feeding envy. I will not spend this day rehearsing old wounds. I will not spend this day begging for approval from people who cannot give me inner freedom. I will not spend this day letting fear decide my conduct. I will not spend this day as a prisoner of things outside my control. That is how death becomes a teacher. It does not make the Stoic cold. It makes him awake. It makes him more honest, more tender with what deserves tenderness, more firm with what deserves refusal, more careful with words, more disciplined with attention, more devoted to virtue, because he knows time is falling away, quietly, whether he respects it or not. So here is the final morning practice. Before the phone, before the noise, before the world enters your mind, sit still for one breath. Then say this, I will die one day. And because I will die one day, I will not live this day asleep. Say it without fear. Say it with dignity. I will die one day. So I will not waste this morning in resentment. I will not waste this mind in comparison. I will not waste this heart in bitterness. I will not waste this breath pretending I have forever. This is not darkness. This is clarity. The person who remembers death does not become weaker. He becomes harder to enslave. Because what can threaten a person who has already accepted the truth of life? You may lose money, so you act with wisdom. You may lose status, so you build character instead of image. You may lose people, so you love honestly while they are here. You may lose time, so you stop throwing it into the mouth of distraction. You may die, so you choose to live awake. And now the entire teaching returns to its beginning. Do not open your eyes like a slave. Do not let the world steal the throne of your reason. Do not insult the morning by forgetting gratitude. Do not drag yesterday's corpse into today. Do not hand the key of your mind to what you cannot control. Do not let every impression become your master. Do not call weakness kindness when virtue asks you to stand firm. And do not pretend you have endless time. You are alive. Right now, not in theory. Not someday. Now, your heart is still working. Your mind can still choose. Your character can still be shaped. Your soul can still return to itself. So let the world be loud. Let people misunderstand. Let the past call your name. Let the future remain uncertain. Let the clock continue its quiet work. You do not need to own the whole day to live this moment well. You only need to own your judgment, your breath, your next action, your refusal to surrender the highest part of yourself. That is Stoicism. Not a quote, not a mood, not a performance, a way of standing inside a fragile life without becoming a servant of fear. So when tomorrow comes, open your eyes differently. Do not reach first for distraction. Do not bow first to anxiety. Do not let the dead past speak before the living soul. Wake as one who has been given a sacred chance. Breathe as one who knows it will not last forever. Act as one who still has work to do within his own character. And say quietly, this mind belongs to me. This day is not promised. This life is passing. So I will not open my eyes like a slave. I will rise like a free human being. And now, my friend, you have reached the end of this teaching. But do not mistake the end of a video for the end of the work. The real lesson begins when the screen goes dark. It begins tomorrow morning, when your eyes open, when the room is quiet, when the world has not yet touched you, when your phone is waiting beside you like a small master, ready to pull your attention back into fear, comparison, urgency, and noise. That is the moment. Not later. Not when life becomes easier. Not when your bank account grows. Not when people finally understand you. Not when the past stops hurting. That first moment is where freedom either rises or disappears. You have seen the path. First, do not let the world steal the throne of your reason. Your attention is not cheap. Your mind is not public property. Your soul is not a marketplace for every headline, every opinion, every notification, every memory, and every fear to enter without permission. Then, remember gratitude, not as a polite thank you, but as a weapon against lack. The person who wakes up grateful is harder to control, because comparison loses power over the one who remembers he is still alive. Then, release yesterday. Do not drag a dead day into a living morning. Take the lesson. Repair what you can. Accept what you must. But do not keep digging up old graves and calling it self-awareness. Then, return to what is yours. Some things are within your control. Some things are not. Your judgment is yours. Your effort is yours. Your character is yours. The rest may visit your life, but it must not own your soul. Then, master impressions. A thought is not a command. A feeling is not always truth. A fear is not prophecy. A silence is not rejection. A delay is not doom. An impression may knock, but it does not have the right to become king. Then, practice kindness with a backbone. Be gentle, but do not disappear. Be forgiving, but do not become available to repeated harm. Be patient, but do not let patience become a hiding place for fear. Virtue is not weakness. Virtue has bones. And finally, remember death. Memento Mori. You will not have endless mornings. One day you would give anything for a day as ordinary as this one. So do not waste it pretending you have forever. Do not waste it living like a slave to things that will not matter when your final breath comes. This is Stoicism, not a decoration for the mind, not a quote to post and forget, not a mask to make you look strong. It is the discipline of returning to yourself when the world tries to scatter you. It is the art of standing upright inside uncertainty. It is the quiet courage to say, even if life is painful, I will not betray my character. So tomorrow, when you wake up, do not rush. Do not reach immediately for the noise. Do not let the dead past speak before the living soul. Place your feet on the floor. Breathe once. Feel the weight of the day before you try to conquer it. Then say quietly, this mind belongs to me. This breath has been given. This day is not promised. I will meet it with reason. I will meet it with gratitude. I will meet it with courage. I will meet it with virtue. And if the world becomes loud, let it be loud. If people misunderstand you, let them misunderstand. If the past calls your name, let it call. If fear appears, let it appear. You do not need to obey every voice that visits you. You only need to remain faithful to the highest part of yourself. That is the work. That is the practice. That is the freedom no one can hand to you, and no one can take from you unless you surrender it. So do not open your eyes like a slave. Open them like a person who remembers that life is short, character is sacred, and the first kingdom you must govern is the one within. Rise slowly. Rise clearly. Rise as one who has not been defeated by the noise. Rise as one who knows the world may touch the body, but it does not have to command the soul. And when tomorrow comes, begin again. Not perfectly, but consciously. Not without pain, but without surrender. No as a slave, as a free human being.